Coming up on Smart Tech Today, Matthew Cassinelli and I start out by following up with Wink. Yes, it is down at the moment, and we kind of wonder if it's down from here on out. Plus, we cover all sorts of new Amazon and Alexa news, some stuff from Apple, including the new ultra-wideband handoff feature for the iPad mini, and of course, Google and some changes with the Google Assistant. It's all that, plus our tips and picks of the week on Smart Tech Today. Don't forget to fill out the survey. We've got just a little bit of time left. It's over in February, so you need to get in there. It is twit.tv/survey21 to fill out some questions. We, of course, know how important your privacy is to you. There's nothing that identifies you individually, like an email or anything like that. You just head there, you fill out the multiple choice questions, and that helps us make better shows for you and helps us, match our sponsors to the show, match the content to the show, improve everything. So really, not only are you helping us out, you are also helping yourself out. Survey21, twit.tv/survey21.
Podcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
This episode of Smart Tech Today is brought to you by Molekule. Molekule is reimagining the future of clean air, starting with the air purifier. It's not just an innovation on existing technology, but a scientific breakthrough in air purification. For 10% off your first air purifier order, visit molekule.com and enter code STT10 at checkout. Welcome to Smart Tech Today, where we explain the exciting, the dynamic, and the sometimes confusing subject that is the Internet of Things. I am one of your hosts, Micah Sargent.
And I am Matthew Cassinelli. Hello, Micah. How are you doing today?
I am doing well, Matthew. Thank you for being a friend. I do appreciate it.
Always.
We want to kick things off with a very important beat for us, a beat that we try to make sure that we're staying up on what's going on in the world of. And for those of you listening, I just winked very horribly at the camera because Wink is maybe not doing so hot. As of today, no tweets from Wink, and the service has been and is still down. Now, Wink, of course, is actually, Matthew, do you want to give a little bit of history on Wink? Because this is kind of an ongoing saga. But for those who may be tuning in for the first time, what's up with Wink?
Yes. So this is a hardware hub that you could get to manage your automations for multiple different types of devices. And in May of last year, they basically told everybody that the service that was free wouldn't suddenly you'd have to start paying $5 a month. Otherwise, your hardware would no longer work. And they gave you about 1 week at the time, which was part of the problem. Is it's like no notice. And they're kind of like, oh, yeah, by the way, we absolutely need this to happen now. Otherwise, we're not doing so well. And it seemed like some people did pay because they've managed to hang on for dear life. And they went through a series of delays on that and charging and things like that. It was kind of a mess. But now the service is entirely down and has been for 3 days. So I have no idea what's going on with them besides the fact that nothing is going on with their service, at least. And they're not even updating people anymore. So this article I found a couple days ago that was like, it's been down for 24 hours. And it's like, nope, it's still down. So I feel like this is kind of the end of Wink. I don't know why you would trust them after this point, continue paying or invest in their hardware, but it's kind of a brutal thing. But also, like, why it's just literally doesn't even work. I don't. Why would anyone use that anymore? So,
Wink stands will, have I think held out for as long as they possibly could, but at some point, like you're saying, enough is enough. And you can't just keep expecting your customers to pay money for a thing that they didn't think they were going to have to pay money for in the first place, we remind you. And to then have to pay money for something that's not working. There were some, Nest, for example, had some outages not too long ago, and they ended up refunding their customers some money due to the fact that was down. And then I think there was another security camera company that had a bit of an outage and ended up refunding their monies at some point. But this is a situation where I don't know that refunding some money is going to
they don't have
do it
to refund.
Yeah, it's not exactly. Yeah, exactly. What money? We don't know what you're talking about. So I think it has become the official position of us here at Smart Tech Today that if you've got some cash in your hand and you want to buy a device that lets you control multiple smart home products, you should not take that cash and exchange it for a Wink Home Hub because that would be a poor investment. And just like r/Wall Street Bets, we here also make investment suggestions. Just kidding. But yeah,
are we
don't
shorting
Wink?
on Wink? I don't know.
Shorting Wink? Oh my God. No, don't tell them I'm shorting Wink because then they're going to buy Wink stock and then I won't be. I don't even know if Wink's a publicly traded company. So I don't think that works. Stocks, how do they work? Anyway, that's that. Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much. I feel like this might be the last we even talk about this because at a certain point, they got to do more than just like come back with something to really make a difference. So I don't even want to give them the benefit of the doubt anymore because they're not owning up to it, especially because it's an automation service. That's what a lot of people said was that it just stops working and you just suddenly realize that stuff is broken. Less so than even actively your lights aren't turning on or something. It's like you had stuff feeding through a system that is no longer working. And usually there's not a clear, obvious sign that that's happening. So I feel like it's time to move on.
Yeah. And I think it speaks to the benefit of having local automations. This more than anything else, if your automations are all based in server side stuff, you're going to have issues. And there was that one time that a person who they owned a smart garage door opener, and they angered some support person that worked at the smart garage door opener place. And so that smart garage door opener support person basically turned off the ability for the person to open their garage door because they could do that. And so obviously that should never happen. But the fact that it can happen again and again, I say, local area network automations are so much better than server side automations. And I think that this is a perfect example of why this technology is kind of old school at this point and is not the best thing that you can do.
It's 2021, man. You're still using a Wink Hub?
Come on, bro. What's
the only listeners of our show would ever say that.
Yeah, exactly. Tell me what's going on with. Tell me when's going on. No, that's dumb.
Oh, wow.
Amazon's skill that helps you to know when something is happening. The Verge has reported on this, and as you note, we had not talked about this before, but it's the idea here, and we've talked a little bit about these skills before, these improvements to ALEXA, which are contextual-based improvements, so that the Smart Assistant can add a little bit of information to something. And I think, I can't remember exactly what it was, but it had something to do with tea. I think it was set a tea timer or something like that.
Or
and then
in 3 minutes. Yeah.
Yeah, I can't remember precisely, but it could infer based on what you were doing whether it needed to, end the timer at this point or let you know what was going on. So what's this? What is the improvement that we're seeing here?
Yeah, so they snuck this in December, which is why I think we just didn't cover it that week. But it's like, tell me when the Super Bowl, I guess Super Bowl is a dumb example, but tell me when this show is on TV or something like that. And it can just have an alert and it automatically does it, figures out the time and things like that. So I thought this is a very small but just quality of life and clever feature where it is like alert me when that happens. And I even think this is something that Apple's Reminders app does terribly. You can just do at a time or every single time I get home, which doesn't, I want it once when I get home, not some sort of repeating thing like that. And so this just seems like all smart assistants should steal this feature. It's like, just remind me when this specific thing that it should be able to infer by. So this is actually getting into the smart assistant thing instead of a dumb if-then statement kind of query situation. So pretty nice little feature.
Yeah, and the example that The Verge gave in the article, I think, kind of points to it. If you've given ALEXA access to your calendar, maybe to your email and things like and other types of integrations, then you have the ability to say, tell me when I get an email from John Jacob Jingleheimer Schmidt, and they, instead of having to constantly check your phone and see which new emails come in, you've got a very important email coming in about an investment that you made in the stock market. And so you want to see that as soon as it hits. ALEXA can let you know right when that happens. That's one example. And the other example is, tell me when the next episode of, I'm trying to think of a show that makes sense. Well, that's boring though. Tell me when the next episode of Star Trek Discovery is going to be on. And not only will ALEXA tell you in that moment, the next episode of Star Trek Discovery is going to be on Tuesday, March 34th. It will also then on Tuesday, March 34th, tell you, hey, you asked me about this before. Tonight's when the episode's on, and then you can kind of be excited about it. So I do like that. That's that follow-up that's specific to something like being able to watch a show where, yes, you want to know right then because you're curious, but the more important thing is to know later so that you're prepared whenever it actually happens. That's pretty smart stuff. I'd like to see these kinds of improvements being made to all of the smart assistants more regularly.
It's just like a computer should be able to do this for you. And the fact that it has taken this long is always kind of surprising too. I guess it does take a certain amount of inference and things like that, and scheduling and things that usually weren't as built. Maybe it does come with some of it being more localized on the device, but it's good to see. And they've even got the next story too, is they've got even more features now that was from earlier this month. And now they have hunches too, which is pretty cool. So this is kind of, I didn't realize until I watched the video that this does seem like Siri suggestions for your Echo devices. And it's also like only voice based, but it says, and through the app, I suppose, but it can basically be like, oh, you always leave this light on when you go to bed. Do you want me to turn that off for you? And you can have it prompt you when it notices that, or you can have it say like, always turn this off for me, and it can just proactively act for you. So this is awesome.
I want to do some clarifying here because we don't want to get email. So Amazon has ALEXA has had the concept of hunches for quite some time. The new feature is that it can on its own act on those hunches. So in the past, you would get a notification in the app and it would say, hey, you regularly turn those lights off at X time at night. And I think that that's becoming a pattern for you. Would you like me to make that a thing that we do? But now you can give a permission and say, you know what, ALEXA, I trust you, pal. You're a great friend, and you've got my best interest at heart. So don't even worry about prompting me. You know that I always turn off the dining room light when I go lay down. So go ahead and turn off the dining room light for me. Don't even need to ask me about it. And then if you decide, don't like that ALEXA is doing that, you can go in and toggle it off. So it kind of just gives the hunch the ability to act on its own. Yeah,
the proactive angle. I haven't used this part, so I guess that's why I messed it up. Do you know if does it work by reading things like the Hue activity, where even if you aren't using the voice part of it, it can control it as sort of the home hub angle? Oh,
yeah. So you're asking kind of, does it pay attention to what you're doing in your home? as long as it has
outside
access.
Of the
yes.
voice. Yeah.
If it has access to those devices, if you've added them via integration, then yes, outside of you talking to the device, it can pay attention to the activities that you do with those devices, as opposed to, and in fact, some of the hunches that I have that came around the holidays were you usually turn this light, this switch called the Christmas tree off at X time. Would you like me to just do that for you? So yeah, I can do, and like I said, I very rarely use my voice to control stuff.
It is interesting, just me being so close to the shortcut side, and they do have automation suggestions, and you can turn off the permission to, or the prompt, and so it does work in the background. But even the branding of this and the proactive part is an interesting angle and does sort of fit more into a smart assistant as opposed to your like user automation controls. So I do like it. I think it's more approachable in that way, which is nice. And I think just being able to more easily go from something like a Siri suggestion to turning that into an automation based off of why it showed you that suggestion would be a smart addition for iOS too. Feature request.
Ding, ding. Now, I got a notification in my email that ALEXA didn't tell me about because I didn't ask it to, about a new system called ALEXA Guard Plus. And this is a subscription service, $4.99 a month or $49 a year. And I'll go ahead and describe it from Amazon. It says hands-free access to an emergency helpline, smart alerts about activity and other potential emergencies in your home while you're away, and features to deter potential intruders. All you need is an Echo smart speaker or Echo Show to get started. So you get to try it free for 30 days. And then after that, you can just use it. So you say a fire starts in your house, you can say ALEXA call for help, and it gives you access to a 24/7 emergency helpline that lets you speak with what Amazon calls trained agents who can request the dispatch of emergency responders such as police, the fire department, or ambulance based on the information that you provide during the call. You can also get alerts on your device about potential emergencies. So if while you're away, ALEXA detects sounds that could be an intruder, footsteps maybe, a door closing, glass breaking, then it can send you an alert and will say, hey, we also think we might hear the sound of a smoke alarm or carbon monoxide alarm. And then you will actually get the opportunity to play back what ALEXA heard from the app, or you can do a drop in and kind of see live or hear live what's going on. And then if you need to, you'll get the prompt to call an emergency service. I think one of the most funny but potentially interesting options that this has is that if you connect it with smart lighting and outdoor facing cameras, ALEXA can turn on and off lights so that it looks like someone's home. And if your camera detects motion outside, ALEXA can play the sound of a dog barking from your Echo to help scare off potential intruders, which is kind of funny to me. And if it sounds realistic, that's great. I do have an Echo Studio, which is like high fidelity. So high fidelity barking. But the problem is you might not want to have that feature enabled if you live in an apartment complex, because your neighbors will be annoyed at the fact that every time someone walks by the front, your dogs are set off inside. But certainly if you have a home, I think that's great. The question is, what's the difference between Guard and Guard Plus, the subscription service versus the regular service? Yeah. And so one of the things is that the emergency helpline is only available on Guard Plus. Guard does do the smoke and carbon monoxide alarm sounds. It does the glass break sounds. It does not listen for activity like footsteps. And then as far as deterring unwanted visitors, the free version does turn on and off lights to make it seem like you're home, but it does not do the dog barking when motion is detected and the siren that it will play when activity is detected inside. So my thought on this is that it a little bit feels like fakesy-wakesy stuff, because outside of the emergency helpline, which I totally get paying for, there's not really a reason why I should have to pay for activity sound alerts and dog barking sounds and siren sounds, because my device right now could make a dog barking sound or a siren sound without it costing Amazon any extra if it can already for free turn on and off those lights. So really, it seems that the money that you're putting into this, you need to find value in that emergency helpline. Otherwise, it doesn't really do you any good. And if you've set up your integration with so AT&T is one of the companies that does this, you can place a call on your Echo devices through AT&T. So you could just call 911. So I don't know. What are your thoughts on this? I mean, do you think that it's enough to be paying $4.99 a month? And then kind of your thoughts on making these features, which could work without you having to pay actual charges.
Yeah. I mean, I agree that it does seem like even just the positioning of it is like you should upgrade from this thing that you basically already get for free. I was just trying to look through some of the FAQs, and maybe it's part of it where it has to hook into those other systems, and so it's not as local. And I agree, though. Amazon does
server costs.
It does not cost them $5 a month. It costs them $5 for like everybody or something like that because of the way that their economies of scale go. So I think that's why it always
hundredths of a penny.
Yeah, but I mean, even almost sometimes there's some psychology of pricing where like if it was cheaper, you would feel like it was cheap or something like that.
That's a good point.
Security stuff kind of has to protect you. I do feel like it is a little weird that they could just offer this all as like a benefit, but it is Amazon. I mean, I was just thinking, how many subscription services do they have now? Like it's
if I pay for Amazon Prime,
turn it into a subscription. Like, why not?
if I pay for Amazon Prime, I should get this for free.
It's like just subscription Echoes, I think, maybe next. Just get a new one every 6 months and just swap it out.
Oh, you're so right. They are, they're going to do Echo shows on a subscription. Write this down. On this, the day of our Lord, Thursday, January 28th, 2021, at precisely 2:16 p.m., Matthew Cassinelli predicted a future in which you rent Echo shows and trade them in for newer versions.
I don't know. I just tried to do a stamp.
Yeah, I was waiting for the sort of gavel or the stamp or something. So we've got that laid in now. Now, the last thing on the list is the most inexpensive video doorbell that that I think is even available at all, but is certainly the most inexpensive from Ring itself. And so this video doorbell is $60, which if you've ever been in the video doorbell market, you know that these things are normally quite pricey. And so this one is available for just $60. Now, it's important to understand that it works for houses that have a built-in wired doorbell, which, can we just have a moment here to think about how there were like doorbell salesmen at one point before like somebody came up with the concept for the doorbell, right? And then someone said, there are already all these houses out there and we've got to convince them that they want a doorbell. So they went door to door knocking and said, wouldn't it be great if you didn't have to have that knock? And then sold them doorbells. And then houses eventually started having them built in. And then quickly people realized, oh, we could do this wirelessly and not have to install a special transformer. I mean, I don't know about you. Now I'm going to get on a little kick here. I'm sorry, but the
doorbells these days.
The absurdity, the absolute and utter absurdity of the doorbell systems that I've seen. For some reason, except in my first home that I sort of rented for myself, it did not have a doorbell, so I can't speak to that. But in every home since then, I've had a wired doorbell, and it's always done so stinking lazily. The transformer is like wired, and there are wires hanging everywhere, and it's sort of just like propped up in the corner somewhere, usually in the utility closet, and it's just poorly done. It looks ugly. In the apartment complex I live in now, the transformer is right next to the bell mechanism itself, and there are these two big honking contraptions that are on the wall, and so they have these two big honking pieces of plastic covering over the top of them, and because they're old as the hills, they're like yellowed by this point, and so it's just gross looking, and it's I hate wired doorbells of yesteryear. But in order to have these systems for new wired doorbells, you still have to use the transformer part. And so I just want someone to, like Ecobee and other smart thermostat manufacturers, they make a really nice kit that lets you use your thermostat with your system, and they include all the tools that you need and a little, like I said, power transformer thingy majig that kind of reroutes the wiring as it needs to be. I would love it if a doorbell company did the same, that they included a well-designed, sort of design-matched transformer that came with the doorbell, so that I could install a wired doorbell and have it not look like an ugly thing from from bad from bad ideas of years past. So anyway, all that's to say, for $60 you can install it if you've got a wired doorbell, and then the battery powered versions are more expensive. For example, the one that's available right now is $99.99.
Yeah. So this seems, I mean, it is interesting tying this together just with the last story, because it is now the low-cost way for Ring users to get video on the front. And so if you do have that Guard system, it could notify you, or Guard Plus, I suppose. So maybe Amazon is making up for the cheaper price and getting people into this just market at all, because if it's too expensive, you're just not going to do it. And then some people use the Guard thing or upgrade to Guard Plus. So it does seem like a solid, just like they're cheap now, and maybe Amazon will push that market downwards in price, which is, I don't know about good for companies, but good for users. So always nice to see. Yeah. And also this is pre-order right now and shipping in February 24th. So get in on it if you are interested.
Get in while the getting's good. All right, let us take a quick break so I can tell you about our sponsor today. It's going to help you breathe easy. It's Molekule. We're all spending a lot more time at home. You are, I am. And look, indoor air can be up to 5 times worse than outdoor air, according to the EPA. Well, that's why Molekule is reimagining the future of clean air, starting with the air purifier. Let me just take a second to talk about that. Why is it that indoor air is up to 5 times worse than outdoor air in some cases? Well, with the doors and windows closed, with the AC or heating running, depending on the level of air filter that you have in your AC heating unit, you are essentially recycling over and over again this air that's filled with dust, dander, and most importantly, and perhaps most largely, dead skin cells. So you're just kind of breathing yourself in and breathing other people and other animals in your home in over and over and over again. And it starts to get gross. What do you think about it? So Molekule is helping with this. It is not just innovation on existing technology, but an absolute scientific breakthrough in air purification. Molekule's core technology, PECO, or photoelectrochemical oxidation, actually goes as far as to destroy harmful pollutants in the air like viruses, bacteria, mold, and chemicals instead of just collecting them on filters like traditional filters do. Molecule air purifiers are designed to help protect homes, businesses, and medical spaces so you know they're destroying pollutants and providing clean air. The air purifiers are designed for large rooms up to 600 square feet. The Air Mini is designed for small rooms up to 250 square feet. The Air Mini Plus helps protect small rooms with a particle sensor and an auto protect mode, which adjusts fan speed based on the sensor. And then there's the Molecule Air Pro RX, which received a 510K Class 2 medical device clearance for medical purposes to destroy bacteria and viruses in the air. Clean indoor air is more important than ever. Molecule's Pico technology meets the performance requirements in FDA guidance for use in helping reduce the risk of exposure to SARS-CoV-2, the COVID-19 virus, in healthcare settings. While it's important to maintain other good prevention practices, this is an extra layer of virus protection for your spaces. Molecule's technology and filtration systems have been tested and verified by independent third-party labs for the whole home and beyond. Molecule now offers its breakthrough Pico technology across a range of products, providing a clean air solution for a range of environments. You just pick the unit that's best for your space or create a discounted bundle. Of course, Molecule has on its site some reviews, and there's one here I'll read really quick. Terry writes, "I can smell the difference. I ordered the Molecule Air in part because of allergies and because my husband's pre-existing medical condition makes him at high risk for COVID-19. I expected to have peace of mind, but not to notice the difference in physical ways. I was frying onions for chili when I first plugged the purifier in. The house reeked of, well, onions, and 20 minutes later, the smell of onions was gone, truly gone. One of my kids walked in and said, weren't you frying onions? Because he couldn't smell them anymore. I was amazed. It is so great to know that the Molecule Air purified all the air in my large open downstairs area that quickly. It exceeded my expectations. I feel like my house is safer and more healthy than it's been in decades." You, of course, can check out the Molecule in all of its different versions and get 10% off your first air purifier order. Just go to molecule.com and enter the code STT10 at checkout. That's MOLEKULE.com and enter code STT10. Thanks so much to Molecule for cleaning our air and for sponsoring this week's episode of Smart Tech Today. All right. I don't know about you, but I've been playing around with the new ultra wideband feature on the HomePod Mini. I was confused about what exactly was going to be the differentiator from this handoff feature versus how it worked before this. And in the past, you could be playing a song on your iPhone, and then you would take the iPhone and sort of tap it to the top of the HomePod Mini, and then it would transfer that music to the HomePod Mini. And then if you were listening to something on the HomePod Mini, you could take it and tap it and transfer it back to the iPhone. But now, with this new update, if you have both an iPhone that supports ultra wideband, by having an ultra wideband chip in it, like the new phones, and a HomePod Mini, which if you've got a HomePod Mini, it has the ultra wideband chip in it. There's a new type of functionality for the for the handoff feature. So sort of as you take your phone and bring it toward the HomePod Mini, as I'm doing now, you start to feel these little vibrations, and it's sort of saying, I think you're trying to move it towards the HomePod Mini, are you? And as you do, the light on top of the HomePod Mini starts to, because the top is a touch sensitive display essentially, and it starts to light up and get brighter, and then your phone starts to bring down this little notification at the top to let you know that you are kind of getting closer to the HomePod Mini. So it helps, and it says move closer or tap to continue on the top. So without even having to unlock your phone, you can use this new handoff feature. And without having to, whenever you do that, you can, as I said, hand off, but you can also have the option to have some now playing stuff pop up on your phone. So yeah, I'm curious, what do you think about this new feature from the HomePod Mini? Have you been playing with it?
It does still slightly have the problem of where you're like bringing your phone close and then moving it back and trying to like go back further, or like I can't tell currently if it is supposed to like happen in between sessions where your phone locks and unlocks sort of more naturally, as opposed to when you're just like testing it back and forth. Sometimes it's not always the natural way you'd use it, but I like it. I think it's great. I think it basically pops up those media controls for you and then is showing you the media controls for that device, because I think that's one of the nicest things that's sort of underrated about HomePods and Apple media controls throughout, like Apple TV especially, is being able to control it from your phone while it's playing on your smart speaker or your TV. And so this basically is both doing the handoff but giving you that control for that device, which is always kind of odd because sometimes it's trying to do, like if you hand off to that device, then you play something on your phone, it'll play on your phone. Or sometimes it decides whether or not to do a full handoff versus AirPlay. So I didn't actually test the AirPlay 2-ness of it, where it does it actually fully pass from, like it's no longer on the phone and just existing on the HomePod. I didn't test that part, which I assume it's not as much. I do think it's almost not, it's handoff in practice, but in technical terms, it's not as much. And I only know this because of shortcuts or even just having confusing limitations before, where like if you use your voice to start it on the HomePod, it's playing on the HomePod, and then to pass it back isn't the same as just like deselecting AirPlay, sort of. So it's a bit weird, but I think the physical controls are really nice. It's using that haptic feedback on the phone, so it is basically just letting you know that you're close enough, and at a certain point it'll go past and onto the device. So it feels like you're handing it off to the device, as opposed to, especially with the current HomePods, you'll be like tapping the top of the HomePod with your phone, and it's like it's really just a proximity thing. It's not actually touching, so it kind of removes the feeling stupid part of it, where you're just like, is this even working? Like you trust that it is because you can feel it getting closer. So it's a nice preview of what ultra wideband does, because if there is something like that in theoretically the AirTags that may or may not exist, that would be a nice feature to let you know. That's something that with NFC tags is you have no idea if you actually tapped it unless you see the confirmation.
Exactly, to have it be that close. And in fact, that was one of the things that I did. With my one of my automations that I have, it's my on-air automation. And so I have an NFC tag underneath my desk, and I basically use it every time I sit down to do a show. I NFC it, if you will, with my phone. And I didn't have this set up this way originally, where I would just kind of, feel around underneath my desk, and then the way that I'd tell that it had worked was my lights would come on. And I thought that's not great necessarily, because it could be sometimes that it registered properly, but for some reason it's not showing or it's not doing it. And so I ended up adding a sort of, before anything else, vibrate my device. And so now when I go to tap the NFC, when I feel the vibration, I know at least the NFC was registered, even if the scene doesn't play out. So then I can kind of look at my phone and see what's wrong. But I want to see if I can't. Let me try to show folks what this looks like, just so they can see.
While you're setting that up too, I'll just say a cool addition to that could be the play sound action. So you could have it make a little ding or something like that.
Do you have to have your phone unmuted for that?
I think it overrides it. I think.
Okay. Because if it overrides it, then that would work.
I could test that though. That's a good question. I'm pretty sure it just plays it, because shortcuts is you're pretty explicitly saying to play a sound, so it wouldn't just not play anything. So you're testing the automation, the NFC one?
No, I was just going to show what it looks like whenever I bring my phone close to the HomePod Mini. And then as I bring the HomePod or my phone closer to the HomePod Mini, you'll start to see that at the top, and it's actually making this vibration feeling at the top as well. And so I didn't do it fast enough because it kind of is like, oh, you probably weren't wanting that. So let me get it closer. And so it says, hey, move it closer, or tap for controls. And then now it pops up, is this the music? I keep accidentally locking my device. There we go. And then I can control on the HomePod. I want to play this song, and it will start playing on the HomePod. So yeah, it's a pretty neat feature, I think. Mm-hmm. Oh, Robinhood's sending me an email. I wonder what that's about.
They're like, oh, sorry.
I got to stop the HomePod Mini now. But yes, the whole time that I'm moving my device, my phone toward the HomePod Mini, there's this little that gets a little bit more intense the closer I get to the phone. So I think that that's a pretty neat feature there.
Yeah, it's very futuristic and sort of disappointing that the old HomePods aren't going to ever get that. I think that's kind of the odd part for me, is the not being on both platforms just feels like I'm not going to use it as much because I use the mix of devices. But it'll be nice, I think, for even specifically where I do use the HomePod Mini in the kitchen and in my office. I am like moving into that space and then leaving. And so being able to pass it off quicker would be nice. Whereas the living room where I have the HomePod, I am usually just listening in there. So I guess I just convinced myself into it.
Let's see. What's next?
Have you done these new Apple has Fitness Plus time to walk workouts where you can have I don't want to say celebrity because that just sounds a little more random, but you can have, at least right now, they have a couple of famous people having a whole conversation about lessons learned throughout their life. And let's see, meaningful memories, thoughts on purpose and gratitude, moments of levity, and other thought-provoking topics recorded while walking outside or in locations meaningful to them.
Yeah, you can walk with dadgum Dolly Parton. So you and Dolly Parton can take a walk, and she will talk and be taking a walk with you and telling you about some, situation of hers. Uzo Aduba, who you might know from Orange is the New Black as the character Crazy Eyes, or Suzanne, and some other people. Shawn Mendes, pop star, and several people. And as they said on MacBreak Weekly earlier this week, where is the Tim Cook one? I want a Tim Cook walk, 1,000%. Would that not be? Good morning. Good morning. Let's take a walk together. Yeah, he probably feels it's vain, but I think it'd be super cool to take a walk with Tim Cook.
I could see him doing it eventually, but maybe not to start.
Yeah, probably. That's fair. Now that I think about it,
hey,
the way that you put it, yeah, that's a good point. Is Oprah on there yet?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like that's going to be either like the penultimate one or like the beginning of the next
Can they get
series.
Beyonce?
It sounds like, because they do say it's each Monday through the end of April. So I wonder. I am curious. This story intrigued me because I use my Apple Watch to do walk workouts mostly every single day, sometimes twice or three times a day. I'm using it to do walking workouts and not actually fitness. So I'm curious if this is on some level. I mean, I don't think this would fit while you're doing a run. I don't want to listen to like a nice conversation. It is more of like a casual walking thing, but I am just curious if they prioritize this because so many people, like from their own data, they probably know that people mostly are walking, and it's not, you should go on walks more than you're working out usually. I mean, I don't know about that, like time spent or anything like that, but they're saying you should get 150 minutes per week, which is about 20 minutes a day. And medium intensity exercise, which is just like I speed walk for sure after working in San Francisco for a while. So I'm getting some exercise, whether or not it's not fitness for sure. It's not building muscle, but it is keeping my heart somewhat healthy. So I'm interested in trying one of these. I just haven't found the time yet, but it does make sense, especially during lockdown, that one of the only things you can do outside is go on a walk. And so might as well have sort of a intentional experience with it too.
Yeah. If anybody wants mine, time to walk, you let me know. I'll record one for you.
I mean, it's just this show added on your podcast app.
That's true. Time to walk with this podcast. Come on. Now,
Micah ranting about doorbell transformers.
Yeah, give me something to rant about. I'd be happy to. Let's talk about the next one, which is that iFixit is saying that the new AirPods Max are one of the more serviceable products that Apple has out on the market, which is, becoming more of a rare thing, I think, for Apple. And so to see this, I think, is really nice.
Yeah, this teardown also came out in December, but if you hadn't seen it, it's very, very interesting. I saw a lot of people who, I think The Verge's headline was something like, this puts other headphones to shame, and maybe does kind of, I don't know about like justifying the price as much, but you can literally see in the diagrams and stuff how much engineering has gotten into the product. And it's interesting, at the time before this came out, people didn't really know that you could detach the ear cups from the headband. There's a little pin inside of underneath the cup in there. And if you use a SIM card tool, it will detach the headband from the ears. I always want to say earmuffs, but that's not it. With like, it looks like almost a mini lightning cord too, where it has like a little connector cable. And then even just, I think today or this week, those individual ear cups are on sale now because it's like, you can switch them out. Or I guess that's more the padding part, but it is still interesting just to see that was a major concern for a lot of people, is that mesh band. And because of the case situation, maybe that's going to get damaged over time. And then do you have to replace all of the whole headset? You probably can just get the band fixed or something like that. So it's good to know. It does make it a little less, not that it's less than $500 still. It's still a lot of money, but kind of helps
update on that price.
But yeah, pretty neat.
All right. Next, I'm waiting for February 1st to roll around so I can get this watch band, because I've been rocking the watch face for the past couple of days. Apple has a new watch band out for Black History Month this year. So traditionally, Apple has done the Pride band, has done that for a while, and then proceeds have gone to different organizations that support LGBTQ plus advocacy groups. And so the same applies here for different equality and justice groups that are helping to promote racial equality and justice. And so I should note, it's not just a watch band, although that is part of it. There's also an actual Apple Watch that's called the Black Unity Apple Watch, and it's an black aluminum and Series 6, of course, watch band. And on the back, it says Black Unity. But for the watch band, it comes in these beautiful green, red, and black colors that are kind of spread out and match a little bit with the face itself. And the pin on the back of it says Truth, Power, Solidarity. So it's your traditional sport band, but that says Truth, Power, and Solidarity. So there's one thing that I've seen a few folks say about this, and it was like, and I mean, this is just the plain of it. It was a meme that was something along the lines of like, Black people are asking not to be killed, and Apple releases a watch band in response. And I think that is, I will always be critical of companies making decisions that are based wholly and solely in sort of making more money or doing something that is good for the bottom line. And don't get me wrong, I am not so naive as to think that this is not also a benefit to the company and its bottom line. But given that, I think it's entirely inaccurate to say that all that Apple has done is release a watch band that they're selling and an Apple Watch that they're selling, because that's not the case. Apple they announced millions of dollars that they were going to be putting towards racial equality and justice initiatives. And then they went farther by saying, here are the ways that we are taking this money that we promised and what we're doing with it. And in part, this was on January 13th. So there was a $100 million pledge that Apple made. And part of this $100 million pledge is for an HBCU education hub and an Apple Developer Academy in Detroit. So detailing exactly what some of that money is going to be going to. And that's part of the $100 million. So it's continuing to use that money in different ways. And so this is going to be more money on top of the $100 million that will be donated to these groups. So yes, I think the companies, the Pride band that's for sale, where a portion of the proceeds go to LGBTQ plus advocacy groups, of course, that's also going to benefit Apple. But I believe that Tim Cook, as at the head of Apple, that these decisions are based in the heart. And I sincerely believe that. And I don't feel that that's naive. I think that this company has proven itself socially to want to do better and be better, and tries to do better and be better. So anyway, I just want to get that out of the way, because sometimes, covering these things can feel a little icky, but there's more to it than just, we're selling you a watch band. A lot more to it than that.
Yeah. And I think especially as particularly this product does have an outward appearance to it that celebrates that kind of culture. And I think that's important for Apple to represent beyond just like certain categories. I think it is, especially when they talk about those initiatives, having other ways to show it as well is important. And like you said, they're going to, I don't see if it says any support, particular portion of the funds or something like that, but there's they have some listed in this article of places that'll go to. So I agree. I think it makes a lot of sense. And also I sometimes, even just having worked there for a little bit, just thinking about the employees there that would want something like this, as well as it means a lot on the internally to have these sort of things represented externally as well. I think that was huge with the Pride bands. And so it's probably same for all of the Black employees at Apple.
Yeah. So anyway, there's that. And I've said enough about it. Let us move on to the Google portion of the show. First, with Tasker's Android phone automations.
Yeah, so this is very fascinating, and this is one of those ones that immediately I raised an eyebrow, because every person who talks about shortcuts first coming from Android is like, well, what about Tasker? And it is the way to do automated multi-step tasks using your Android phone, and now it's hooked into Google Assistant, so you can have Google Assistant trigger your Tasker scripts or automations, whatever you call them. So this is just powerful, because it's like adding the Siri to shortcuts, or basically workflow from before, in a more unofficial way, as opposed to Google's. I mean, they have their own type of, I think they're even called shortcuts now, but for the people who want to be doing it themselves and do the DIY, build your own fully complete, turn off your Bluetooth and everything else triggers around it sort of thing, you can trigger that now with your voice through Tasker. So it's pretty cool. This is awesome. I love seeing it's like a little, since it's not as official from Google, I don't see it as like a huge pressure on the Shortcuts team or something like that. But I love seeing competition. I love seeing options for people regardless of platform. So if you're not interested in the Shortcuts world, Tasker and Google Assistant stuff seems like the way to go.
Cool. Then, so unfortunately, Google's VR painting app, which that's one that I've used before in my VR headset, it's getting the axe, but it will live on as an open source project. So even though Google's not going to be continuing to work on it sort of within, folks can still work on it from without. And The Verge's subheadline here, another example of Google's retreat from VR. That's fascinating to me.
Yeah, I am very interested, and I included this specific article because I have been following a lot of VR developers on Twitter, and it was sort of hard to parse this announcement. Like, this is it almost seems like The Verge's take, and is probably on some level realistic, that Google is not investing in this as the company itself. So technically they are getting rid of it. But I do think part of it is that the guy who created it is moving on to other projects. It's like he made it 10 years ago or whatever, and it's been a long time in the VR world, even though I'm like, I've used this like twice and I want to use it more. And I was waiting to see what else they would do with it. And so I can see, especially for Google and how they prioritize things, or even if something's been alive for a while but hasn't reached that scale, their tendency is more to shutter it, as opposed to now being the time to invest in it more than ever because millions of people just signed up. Or even, I think it's like, I don't remember if I paid for it or not, so maybe the profitability angle is there. But I have seen already, since it's been open sourced, in theory, the community can take it and turn it into something else. And already there's been a couple of developers who added multiplayer to it in like one day, as opposed to, I could totally see like it not being a priority for a manager at Google in the company Alphabet in this huge, large scale of things, but somebody who actually cares about it could push it forward right away. So it'll be interesting to see if people basically step up and maintain it, and how it'll work across the different app stores too. But it is, I mean, it's amazing. If people haven't seen it, it's the thing where you take your VR controller and paint in light around you, and you can like step into your painting and things like that. So it's very cool, but I do think it's sort of has the problems of all VR things, where it's not how you would do it. Or I mean, we're watching the preview video on the video feed right now, and it's like there's all of these artists that are amazing at it, but to go from I'm an idiot waving my hand around in the air to like I just created this art scene, a lot of times has that gap of skill problem. So I can see it being, it's like this is the coolest MO that they have, but I hope that this doesn't mean that Google is actually pulling back fully in these realms. But they've done, I think they got really into VR early, and then it didn't exactly pan out the way that they thought, or like the hype of it then. But I guess it's kind of Google's thing to sunset products. So make a sunset in Tilt Brush for it.
That's hilarious. It's kind of Google's things to sunset products. I mean, yeah, it kind of is. Then 9 to 5 Google has listed some of the Google. I was just thinking about this the other day on Siri. In fact, let me just try this now. What's your favorite limerick? Nope. It doesn't say.
No, it didn't work. Okay.
It doesn't do something funny. I always want to. I was just thinking that the other day if any of them have pre-programmed limericks built in. Let me ask Google. Sorry, the article that we're talking about here is some of the very best Google Assistant Easter eggs, and so it kind of lists, or it's a video that talks about some of them that you can ask. But let me ask it real quick if it has a favorite limerick.
Old Man with the Owl by Edward Lear. There was an old man with an owl who continued to bother and howl. He sat on a rail and imbibed bitter ale, which refreshed that old man and his owl.
So there was Google's. Let's see if ALEXA has one. Hold on. What's your favorite limerick?
Sorry, I don't know that.
Oh, so only Google had a favorite limerick. But this article has lots of different references to movies, Blade Runner, Dragon Ball Z. Okay, I got to try that one.
I was a little confused, but I do think
Super Saiyan.
GRRRAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAA
robotic version, or there's a couple that just kind of like yell at you randomly and kind of scared me. But here, let me try it real quick. What's the first rule of Fight Club?
I wouldn't know. That's not something I talk about.
Ooh,
That's not something I talk about.
Sneaky about it.
Oh, you can do the Konami code.
Yeah, that was a good one. Oh yeah, I tried to do Party on Wayne, and it started playing Wayne's World on my TV downstairs randomly. So careful if you have some of those hooked up. But yeah, there's a whole good list. I mean, if you make some like "Who was the walrus?" puns about the Beatles, they'll say something clever back. So this is just a good way to, I don't know, impress your friends. I guess nobody has friends over anymore, so just if you're really bored during quarantine. Just go through all of these.
Just go through this list. Yeah, there's lots of different ones in here that I'll probably be doing after this show is over, just to see what all is available. Up next, we've got the project of the week. All right, Matthew Casanelli, what is your project this week?
So I wanted to share a couple tips for using automations with the Apple Watch and shortcuts, because I think this is something that just people don't necessarily know. I didn't grab the tweet before, but I saw somebody sharing it where you can use, first of all, there's a set of actions in shortcuts for the Apple Watch. I've got the list right here. There's ping my iPhone, set the always on mode, set cinema/theater mode, silent mode, water lock, and then watch face. So that first set is a lot of just technical device control things that you could have set for different situations, or like if I'm going running outside, you could do the water lock. I'm not sure why you want that, but the big one is set watch face. And one of the reasons this is also important is because in iOS 14, I don't think this was widely circulated, but you can have over 40 watch faces now. Because why? But also people like me, you can guess, oh, I used every single one of them.
What?
And so I just went through because I could, and I was trying to see how many there were. And then I developed this whole excessive system. Before I get into that though, I will just say, yeah, it doesn't sound like me at all. I will say the best use of this is using the time of day automation. So in the most simple way, when you wake up in the morning, change your watch face to your morning watch. Maybe after work, change it to your evening watch. And then maybe 9 p.m., change it to your night watch. And so the big thing also, if people didn't know.
I've just got 3 different Apple Watches for that. So I don't know about you, but I'm sorry. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Also, my brain was just like night watch, and I just went to Game of Thrones, even though that's not it. The night.
Check out these Matthew Casanelli Easter eggs.
But then other good options. So there's a bunch of different. Oh yeah, I guess the part I was going to say about time of day is that in iOS 14 also that got the ability to run in the background as opposed to being a normal prompt like it was in iOS 13. So that does mean that you could just look at your watch face after that time of day and it's switched automatically, which is great. But I went through pretty much all of the automations that are triggered automatically as opposed to requiring confirmation. You can set up interesting ways to do your watch face. So that NFC one, when you set up for your podcast, Micah, you could have it switch to a different watch face, maybe just shows the time and not anything else. There is a whole process of kind of just thinking, when you have 40 watch faces, it's kind of like you're making them up for what you want as opposed to what you might necessarily need. But there's some fun ways to do that. Or just like I had it, I think, is just purple because SmartTech Today is purple as the brand. So it was just kind of like reinforcing what I'm doing through the color setup that I have. Other ones that are good are just alarm and sleep. So you could have it be when you wake up, or even with the bedtime or the time for bed. I'm trying to think of what's the zone before bed. I can't think of it right now.
Down.
But yeah, wind down. There it is. So like have a different. I will say, by the way, that just reminds me that I don't think the toothbrush thing is fixed in iOS 14.4.
Nope, it sure isn't.
Come on. We need that. I haven't brushed my teeth in months. It's terrible.
Exactly. Do they not care about my dental health?
Seems like they're just brushing it off.
Oh my God, they're just brushing it off. You get a car and you get a car. Go ahead.
So other ones to use. I don't know if you should be using your watch too much while you're driving, but if you hook up to CarPlay, you could have it set your watch face. I think a good one is the workouts. Specifically, I like to have sort of like the weather data and stuff on the workout. So it will still show you the workout by default, but then once you go back to the watch face, it would show you just during that. And then you could also have it when the workout ends, go back to your normal watch face, which is kind of nice. I do wish there was a way to get the current watch face so I could save it and then restore it later. And that's an excessive feature there for people like me. But other good ones, I've done Do Not Disturb, where I have sort of a focus type setup for even on my phone too, and different apps. And so if Do Not Disturb is on, it'll change it to like a nice blue thing on the watch and could even show the breathe watch face, which would be a nice idea. Low power mode and whether or not you are at a certain battery percentage or on or off your charger are the other good options. So if it's like your phone's dying, your watch could change and you could kind of notice from your watch that your phone was low. Or it's like if it's charging or finished charging, it could even change there. So lots of fancy ones there. But the way that I ended up doing it, I guess I didn't mention one of the big ones, is the apps automation, because you could basically have for any groups of apps, it could set your watch face to a certain thing. And so me being me and doing all of my fancy home screen things, I have dedicated home screens for like different contexts in my life. And then I had it for a while. I haven't fully committed to this, and I'll get to why in a second. But for a while, I had it where any app that was on the video page would also trigger an automation that would change it on my watch. And as you can imagine, one of the problems was that I had like 400 notifications, and every time I was using an app, it was changing my watch face also. So I think this kind of falls into the general problem that Shortcuts has, where if you really do use it a lot, you just get like 400 notifications a day because it's trying to confirm that you did those things regardless of whether or not it was an automatic trigger. And so I ended up just getting like overwhelmed because, or even I think the watch itself, maybe it works better with the Series 6, but it was kind of like struggling to change the watch face constantly. And even in between my 40 watch faces as I'm going, it starts to slow down and freak out a little bit. But I did have an interesting strategy for at least managing some of that. One of them was just a shortcut. It had the choose from menu action. And then in those menu options, I just put like video, podcast, music, and then underneath those, it has the change watch face action and will change to whatever face I desire. So I can just use one shortcut to control my watch there. Also, it comes down to the arrangement of the faces. I basically have the Siri one in the middle of the list, and then all off to the right are my work watch faces, and then all off to the left are my personal ones. And so I have a shortcut automation that goes back to that Siri one, and then I can kind of just quickly swipe off to one side or the other, whether or not it's like just the nice looking ones or it has all these fancy automations in there and complications that I want for work. But it's this whole thing, and it is cool to have shortcuts extend out across Apple's ecosystem. Like we've talked about HomeKit before, Apple TV, Apple Watch and shortcuts are like a match made in heaven, which is awesome. And that's just the automations for changing the watch face. It actually worked on the watch and everything too. So maybe I'll have to cover that once I catch my breath in another episode.
Yeah, that would be nice. The multi-watch face thing, I guess I'm having trouble. I would have to see someone have like a really, really good use case for it. That, it's something that is life-changing, and, maybe not that much, but for me, it feels a little too, because I think maybe it's just not for me, because I don't really ever change my watch face. The Unity watch face is the first time I've changed my watch face in ages. I've got like 15 different watch faces, but I'm pretty much always on, and let me find it. It's called Infograph. And that's the one that I use. That's my, go-to watch face, because I've got the time analog, the time digital in the middle, my calendar on the left, access to the home app on the right, and the remote app on the bottom. Those are the sort of inner complications. Top left has my calendar appointments, so the appointment that's going to be coming. Top right has Carrot Weather. Bottom left has the timer. I use that shortcut more than almost anything to access the timer app, because I'm always setting timers. And again, don't like to use my voice. I just go down to here on it. And then bottom right is activity. And so that's my typical watch face. And so I can kind of tell what matters most to me based on what I put on my Unity watch face. I have the calendar, it's day and date at the top, and then at the bottom is the timer, because once again, I use the timer more than anything else. And there are only 2 complication options on the Unity watch face. So yeah, I guess that's just not meant for me. I think if I changed it more, I would use it more. And
isn't
maybe
that part of what this feature allows, though, is you don't have to choose to change it. It will just be changed. True. And I guess
I just don't have, like, what would I change it to? I don't have any reason to change it or to have it changed automatically.
Totally. I agree. And I think that's what's, especially with iOS 14 and the widgets and all of the shortcuts on the home screen, I kind of just took it as an opportunity to be like, I think that's totally true. Like I'm with the home screen thing, especially, I do search mostly in Spotlight or something like that, or on the Apple Watch. It's like, I don't really use it that much, all of the apps. And in many ways, that's because I only have one watch face that I use that has just the most important apps on. But at a certain point after 5 p.m., you don't need to know what's on your calendar or like the weather, really. And so at a certain point, you've really honed one watch face to be everything. But you could have more just to serve more select purposes, or even some of them are just nice to look at and I never see them because I'm just lazy or don't. I mean, even you were doing it on camera, but a lot of people probably don't even know that you can hard swipe on the watch from side to side to switch watch faces, or that you can tap and hold to activate the switcher, and then you can use the crown even to swipe in between the entire giant list. So especially with GF40, I recommend doing that. I do think it's like I fully do this because I can, not because I should, sort of. I'm trying to figure out whether or not you should. And I don't think it always makes sense, but I think honing in those specific use cases can give your Apple Watch more utility. Or it's like, I don't use most of those apps on there, but if it was shown to me at the right time I think a big thing is putting those apps into the complications on the watch face, not necessarily just the design or even like the shortcuts in those complications. So I think maybe this is my ultimate problem, and what I'm trying to do with a lot of my like content is I want to make a video to show you why it could be worth it, as opposed to just having that one watch face. So I'm going to have to record my YouTube video about this talking to you, Micah, across the camera.
Micah Sargent, even you could have use for this. I just thought of one back whenever because I also think that it has to do with the fact that I don't go places. But back when I was in the office and was doing iOS Today, having a watch face that didn't have my upcoming calendar appointments on it would be kind of nice. You know, having a more pared down watch face that shows less of my personal information would be nice. So a calendar event where it's like, when this event pops up, change the watch face to this and then change it back after that event is over. Then I've got something that would make sense for me.
That's a cool
so
one.
Yeah, maybe one day there's a reason.
Yeah. And I think a big thing for me is it is a tough exercise, like to build out extra watch faces that I might not need, have them automatically show up at certain contexts with like, what watch face do I even want on there? It's like, this is my job as a creator on some ways to just like explore this and figure it out. And so I think it's just interesting to know that it's even possible. Like, a lot of people still haven't seen that shortcuts can change the watch face, or that automations can work in the background like that. And the combination of it creates this thing that you would want, but you just have to know about it to set it up. I want to change home screen action, because then I want this whole thing to be like, I just open my iPad and my phone at time for the podcast, and my shortcuts are just there on the screen. My watch face is already set up. The lights all change. It's like, I don't want to do anything. I just want it to do it for me.
Yeah.
Just kidding. But it is still like, I think I was saying this earlier in the show, a computer should be able to do this. And I wanted to proactively figure out those watch faces for you and show it up. It's like, you use these similar apps and they all have complications. You should add this watch face or something. Like, that would be cool.
Yeah. All right. It is time for our picks of the week. Up first, Matthew Casanelli. What is your pick of the week?
This is just a casual thing to pick up. It is a $2,500 Sony Xperia Pro phone that is made for creator type people. So I thought this is very interesting. I almost dismissed it at first because it's yet another smartphone in a different world. But one of the big things is that it has an HDMI input on it. And the way that they're pitching it is to mount on top of your camera as a monitor for your camera, and then hooking up to 5G and live streaming your video from a professional camera. And so I was interested in it because I saw other creators being interested in it, being like, this actually seems like how you could use a smartphone for production purposes, and having it be dedicated to this kind of task makes a lot of sense, as opposed to consumer phones that are like, well, you could make your own movies. It's like, no, but you're not going to actually do that. And so right. I think having targeted devices like this that actually solve people's specific problems makes a lot of sense. I just thought it was interesting, and kind of it is, for me at least, the most interesting thing in a smartphone in a long time, and one of the actual use cases for 5G, I think, especially, where it's like, oh, you could like stream movies while you're walking down the street. It's like, I'm not going to do that, but streaming a video that you're filming, it actually makes a lot of sense, especially in like,
I'm kind of
2020 and beyond. It happens a lot. So
that no one has made this exact device before, because that at first I was ready to poo-poo it. And one of the things that I saw people talking about is it doesn't have focus peaking. It doesn't have some of the tools that other external monitors have for cameras. And so why would I buy the $2,500 phone when I could buy the $500 or $300 or $400 external display that provides HDR, that provides these things and is more focused? But the fact that it can also work as a way to live stream, I think that's interesting. Like I said, that's what makes me wonder, how come someone hasn't done an HDMI display with a place for a SIM card yet. You know what I mean? That just seems very smart.
I think it is sort of just the overlap in expertise. And at a certain point, those people don't know how to make smartphones or operating systems and things like that they can make the part that just pure records it. So I agree. I think it is like, this is something that should be developed further, and with those extra features that somebody who's a pro would probably need. And also it's still pretty expensive. This would be more than, or like comparable to actually the full camera setup for at least more like prosumer style cameras. So I still think it's cool though. It's like, I want this technology to get pushed forward.
In fact, Mr. Mobile, which is a well-known smartphone and tech reviewer, I guess he's quoted here kind of talking about how if you wanted to do this live streaming thing, it would cost upwards of $2,000, and it would need a much clunkier hardware. So you wouldn't have just this slim, I've just got my camera, I've just got this phone, and that's it, and we're live streaming. You would have multiple devices. They would be bigger in many cases. They would be, the batteries are all different, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So this actually is kind of an interesting idea that for $25K, I guess, that's still a lot of money. But for $25K, you get the whole package. And even if you don't, I mean, it's still an Android phone. And so you get an Android phone that works as an Android phone does, with all the cameras and stuff on it that it has. So yeah, I guess
it does. Yeah. It's like, I think it is slightly more of a proof of concept thing. I mean, I'm sure it's still
sounds
actually
like
useful for that, but I've used monitoring apps on my phone and on my iPad for sure. And so just for anybody who doesn't even think about it that way, it's the way to give yourself the screen outside of the dinky little screen that's on the camera itself, and then that internet connectivity. And I mean, a big thing is just that apps and hooking into Instagram Live or something like that from the camera itself actually is a really powerful thing that you couldn't really do otherwise. So I just want to see this kind of thing come to iPhone also. If they could enable it over a dongle or something like that, that'd be awesome.
Absolutely. All right. My pick of the week is, it may have been something that I talked about before, but at the time I got an email from Oculus saying, hey, the product that you got is not going to be available because we've heard a few complaints that there's an issue. And so we're looking into those issues. And so for now, we're holding off pre-orders of or I had pre-ordered and they weren't going to ship it. And so I got an email saying, hey, if you still want this, even though we're still looking into things, then you need to email us and let us know. Otherwise, we're canceling all orders. So orders were canceled by default. You basically had to opt in to be able to stay on the pre-order list. And so I opted in because I was still interested in it, and I knew they'd do their due diligence to make sure. And it turned out it was just a few devices that had the charging problem or whatever it was. And so they ended up being able to ship them again. So I picked one, or mine finally arrived, and it is the Oculus Quest 2 Elite Strap with battery. So there are two versions of the Elite Strap, which is a more comfortable Oculus Quest 2 headset strap. And the one version has a built-in rechargeable battery that lets you add more juice to the setup. So the way that this works is it's got this kind of rubberized cup on the back that fits the back of your head. I can't think of, there's a name for that area of the brain, or that area of the skull, but I can't think of what it is. But it kind of fits along the top bulge on the back of your skull. And then it uses an adjustment ring on the back of the headset. And so moving it one way shrinks it, and moving it the other way sort of stretches it out. And so these rubberized panels on the side can get longer, and there's more kind of tucked into this, or shorter depending. And then, of course, it's still got the strap at the top. On the side is the way that it plugs in. So the extra battery runs down through a wire, that you then plug into the side of the device like that. And I've been using it like this. It makes it a lot easier to put on. You basically tilt the headset up and you put it on, bring it down, and then you just move this and then it fits. And because of the way that it's it spreads out the tightening, if you will, of the headset.
Like resistance.
Yeah, it holds to your face a lot better instead of kind of being more top heavy. And so the bottom of it kind of comes up a little bit. It does it in a way that's even. So the bottom is pulled towards your face as much as the top is pulled towards your face. And so that keeps it from being an issue there. So it's $129, which is pricey. But you get that whole strap and everything like that. And then you also get, I was kind of annoyed because I bought, I needed something to put my Oculus Quest 2 in. So I bought one of these weird eggy felt cases. And then I've come to find out that the Oculus Quest 2 Elite Strap with battery comes with a case. So now I have two of them. So Matthew, if you want the other felt case that I have, it's all yours because I don't need two of them. So yeah, that's the Oculus Quest 2 Elite Strap with battery. And like I said, it's quite nice, and it has made me feel much more comfortable with it. It feels much more comfortable on my head, and like I said, I think makes the experience even better.
Does it so it also just doubles how long it lasts too, which is solid, especially if you're playing a lot. Does it? So in addition, it sounds like it redistributes it on your eyes. Does it also, just having the battery on the back, help kind of balance as opposed to it being forward heavy?
Yeah, it doesn't feel as front heavy as it did before.
Even though it's all really heavy overall, it's because it's balanced on your head. It's not as much like you're wearing this headset that's pulling you forward or something. Does it feel just funky though? Because you're now full on spaceship on your face.
Say again, does it feel what?
Like you have a full on spaceship on your face, because it's now on the back of your head too. It's like a whole helmet, not just goggles.
No, I don't really feel it on the back of my head. It doesn't feel as if my head, I'm trying to think, maybe because I'm used to wearing headphones and other things like that. It's not as if there's suddenly more on my face. My brain knows that there's something covering my eyes. And so the weight that's there feels okay, but it doesn't, I see what you're saying. It doesn't feel as though I suddenly have to be more cautious of moving my head backward or forward, because it doesn't take up that much extra space in the back. So it's not as if I'm worried I've got this huge blimp on my head and I need to be careful where I move it.
Even just if you look more silly, maybe this is a question for your partner and not you, of just I don't know. It's sort of I'm going into VR and you're have this whole thing that you're putting on versus in theory what AR glasses are, just putting something on and it's not as much of a encompassing experience. I'm just curious if it maybe helps with the it could be a positive thing to help with the detachment and you're more into VR because it's just sort of disappears around you, but you're still getting into your headset as opposed to putting one on or something. I don't know. It does seem like a nice way to charge it.
I definitely would prefer AR over VR. But ultimately this is so much easier than having to pull that strap and then have to take the hook and loop Velcro on the top and readjust it and then make adjustments to the sides and sort of bring this up and down. With this, I put it on and I just go and ratchet it closed and I'm done. So it's a lot faster than putting on that other headset, the band that it comes with, or strap that it comes with, which is what I like about it. And then, as I said, I don't have the light leakage that I had with the other one because of the way that it distributes the tension over the whole headset.
Nice. Seems worth it. Cool.
Yeah, I think if you sort of are investing in VR and you're investing in VR with the Quest 2, you should add this to your eventual kind of list. And you can get this without the battery for $49 instead of $129. So it's the Elite strap, meaning you get all of it, but minus the built-in battery. So you can still get that new tension adjustment. It makes it easier to put on, et cetera, but it just doesn't have that extra battery to give you more extended play. So if 129 seems a little bit hard to swallow, 49 might be a little bit easier. And so you get the thing that looks like this, except the band back here is a little bit thinner, and there's no USB-C port at the bottom, of course.
Cool.
Yeah.
Nice.
So that's that, folks. We have reached the end of another episode of Smart Tech Today. If you've got questions, as I've said before, Matthew and I are collecting your questions. stt@twit.tv. stt@twit.tv is where you send those to have them answered. If you're watching now, you know we're recording the show live, as we do every Thursday at 4:30 p.m. Eastern, which is 1:30 p.m. Pacific, or 21:30 UTC, if you prefer that UTC time. Just go to twit.tv/live, where there are links to all the ways you can get it live. But the best way to check out the show is by subscribing to the show. And we are wherever you are, audio and video formats across Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube. We're in all the places, and we love to be there for you. So you can check us out in those places and do subscribe to the show. Matthew Cassinelli, if folks want to follow you online, where do they go to do so?
I am on Twitter at Matt Cassinelli, and then Matthew Cassinelli on YouTube. And if you can't spell my last name, it is Cassinelli. What about you?
I am putting my headset back in the case. I am at Micah Sargent on pretty much all of the social media networks, or you can head to chihuahua.coffee, CHIHUAHUA.coffee, where I've got links to all the different places I exist online. I think that's going to do it for us for this week. And that means it's time to say good afternoon to all of your smart assistants.
Good morrow, nerds.
Good morrow, nerds.
If you like Android with a heavy dose of fun and entertainment, then you're going to love All About Android. It's me, Jason Howell, along with my co-hosts Ron Richards and Florence Ion. Every Tuesday, we discuss the news items that matter most, the hardware and devices that are running Android, and the apps that run on top of them. Plus, we answer your email each and every week. That's All About Android on twit.tv.